Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am Jay Hammerhead Cameraman Cluett, and Mark isn't here. Remember a few dozen episodes ago, I did a post-recorded intro saying I'd never present you with a show with just me and without Mark. That was a lie, it turns out, because Mark is not here, and Mark isn't going to be here for a little while, as has been planned. This is why we're doing this whole Deep Blue Sea adjacent thing. Normally on this show, we would be tackling Deep Blue Sea franchise one chapter at a time. We've finished all that. We're now looking at Deep Blue Sea adjacent films, mainly ones I haven't seen before. And Mark's little bundle of joy is coming a little sooner than intended. So he is taking a break from the podcast. I'm not. It's still going to keep coming mostly every week, where we're tackling Deep Blue Sea adjacent films, films with sharks, films with water trouble, films directed by Renny Harlin. And this week we are looking at two out of three of those. We're looking at Shark Night. Shark Night 3D was its original release. What is Shark Night? Well, came out in 2011 as Shark Night 3D. Lots of 3D things in this film, 3D scenes, elements, effects, whatever. And it's mainly a bunch of college students and kids go to a cabin on a lake, and there's sharks involved. Things don't go well from there. We'll get into it. When I said we, who says we? It's just me so far. We have a guest. It's a fan favourite. It's a returning guest. It's our most returning guest. I think this is like the 20th time he's been on the show. He's just got back from filing his teeth down to points. It's Nick Rehak. Nick, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Nick. Thank you for asking. How are you?
It sucks because filing the teeth down, I was chewing some gum earlier, slid a little bit, and bit the inside of my cheek, so there's blood coming out.
Oh, that's going to do it, yeah.
It's less than ideal, so I'm going to be doing a lot of that during the cast.
I'm sure the listeners are going to love
appealing
that. Wonderful. Wow. Listeners, I will edit it out as much as possible. But Nick, you host Rehak Radio, weekly radio show, available online, fantastic show. So I think I want to kick things off. If you were being dangled above, if you were tied to a chair, being dangled above a trapdoor leading down to some sharks, what music would you pick? What would you request Donal Logue play on the radio?
I think I would want just the most ironic, obnoxious thing, like maybe Take My Breath Away by Berlin, or Sorry by Justin Bieber, or Reminiscing by Little River Band, just something like completely not fit for the moment. None of this rock, nothing, just like real easygoing music, very ballad heavy music.
You want to chill the situation down a little bit.
Exactly. We're going to listen to, anything yacht rock, really. And I feel like yacht rock would be a little more apropos given the fact that I'm about to take a dip in the water, but it's with a shark.
Maybe some Duran Duran, a bit of Rio going on in the background.
That might be a little too fast.
Too fast, okay.
That might be. That or Hungry Like the Wolf. In this case, Hungry Like the Shark.
Hungry like the shark. Yeah.
Ooh, or
like
Mac the Knife.
Okay, when the shark bites, yeah.
Yeah.
With his teeth, dear. Yeah. I can see that. I think that would work quite well.
Yeah. There it is. I'll pick Mac the Knife.
Nice, I like it.
Bobby Darin.
So not any of the covers. The first Mac the Knife I ever heard was Robbie Williams on his Swing When You're Winning album, an album I've listened to many, many times and still enjoy a great deal.
Frank Sinatra does an okay version. Louis Armstrong does a fantastic version because he's just slamming on that trumpet most of the time. But, Bobby Darin's the classic.
Well, a surprisingly good version I heard. Vinnie Jones on his album Respect.
Okay.
Vinnie Jones of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and other similar films. I love him.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly who I thought. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right.
He released a big band album in I think the 2010s or the late 2000s.
No, he didn't.
He did.
No, he didn't.
It's genuinely not bad.
Okay.
It's on Spotify and Apple Music and everything. So listeners, check out Respect by Vinnie Jones. He does his Bad Leroy Brown is fantastic.
It's bad?
Okay. It's good. And I tell you, he didn't do Mac the Knife. I'm just checking the album now. It sounds like a song he would have done, but he didn't do it. Maybe that'll be on the next one. But he did do Sitting on the Dock of a Bay, one of my favourite songs. So, good. Anyway, tangents already. Not even a surprise. So let's start with the music on this film. The music is, I think, pretty terrible for Shark Night. So, okay, why are we talking about Shark Night? Before Mark's planned hiatus, I gave Mark a list of all the films that had come up on the course of the show. Like, these are the ones we might talk about. Pick 4 or 5 that we can cram in before you have to take a break. This is one Mark wanted to talk about that I wasn't very familiar with at all. I didn't know what Shark Night was, other than I could guess it had sharks in it at some point. And I think you were probably in the same boat, Nick. It wasn't something you were familiar with either.
Not at all. When you suggested it, I'm like, this has got to be like a straight to DVD type thing, because I don't remember hearing about it being in theaters at all. But it had to have been in theaters if it had the 3D effect.
Yes, and it's directed by David R. Ellis, who has made it. The DVD box that I bought this film says for £1, it's fine. It says from the director of The Final Destination, which is the worst Final Destination film, and they could be saying from the director of Final Destination 2, my favourite Final Destination film. So they picked the wrong one, but he also directed Snakes on a Plane, which is a favourite of mine I've talked about on another podcast. He directed Cellular with Chris Evans and Kim Basinger, Jason Statham, and William H. Macy, and a film called Asylum, which I know nothing about, but also Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco.
When I looked that up, I was like, wait a sec.
But fittingly, he was also the second AD on a little film art called Deep Blue Sea. So he has a connection.
See that.
Yeah,
I tell you what, he's been the second unit director and or assistant director on a lot of just what a wide variety.
Yeah.
I was looking at like 47 Ronin, Winter's Tale, and then he has stuff like Exit Wounds.
Holy Man, Sphere,
Blank Check,
Waterworld. He was on Waterworld. Fatal Attraction.
Baywatch, the TV series.
The TV series, yeah, it's not the film.
Beethoven's Second. Like, What is happening here?
It's an eclectic CV, shall we say? So this got a theatrical release. I don't think it did well.
You don't say.
Well, actually, it was made for 25 million, and Wikipedia lists the box office as 41.4, so it at least made its budget.
Okay.
Back. So Mark kind of picked this film to talk about. Nick and I don't know much about it, and then Mark can be here. I didn't like this film. We kind of committed to watching it and talking about it. Mark's made a little list of bullet points to kick off, but yeah, this I would say this is probably the worst film we've covered so far on a list that includes Deep Blue Sea 2. We'll get more into it, but the characters aren't. You don't really root for anyone in this film, I think.
No,
and
not at all.
The amount of ogling the camera does on the entire female cast,
right?
It's upsetting.
It's bizarre because I'm watching this. I mean, in the opening scene, there's a female character walking into a lake, and she's just kind of jumping up and down in the water,
bouncing as she goes
for whatever reason. And then we're just focusing on the lower half of her body under the water, and I'm very confused as to what's going on. I mean, the opening credits themselves are 3 minutes long. For what?
If you want to give yourself a seizure, watch them at 3 times the speed with the sound on, which I was doing earlier just to kind of scan through for what happens later in this podcast. And yeah, that was headache-inducing. It's like a thrash metal song over the fastest edits you'll see. So yeah, she's just bobbing along, bouncing. Her boy comes out, takes her top off against her will, throws it for her to go fetch.
Aggressively too, yeah. Not like in a fun. He just about rips it off,
and then he just walks out of the water and he just sods off to go and get a drink. He's done.
Yeah,
he just leaves her topless in the water. She then goes. You don't see any nudity. I think this is like a PG-13 film or something.
Yeah, you catch some side glimpses, but nothing egregious.
Yeah,
except for these shots where they're just like you said, bouncing in the water for what? To fill time to make it an hour and a half? Like
pretty much. I mean, it's 82 minutes, the UK cut. So I don't know what's been removed, but this was
interesting.
But we've been getting that a lot with the past few, where it's just my version is 5 or 6 minutes shorter than anyone else's, and I don't know what's missing, if any. Maybe I know that the DVD regions go at different speeds, but not enough to take out that much. But anyway, so this was a PG-13 release in the States and a 15 in the UK, which is odd because I think a PG-13 normally correlates to a 12 or a 12A over here. But no one cares about this. So he sort of get a drink. Lisa topless to go and get a drink. She had to get her bikini top. She swims out and gets it, puts it back on again, and then is attacked by a shark, who removes her top again. So we don't know these characters' names or anything, what they're doing. But then we cut immediately to a college campus, and we're following just the butt of a girl, just a random lady walking along, swaying her hips, and we just follow her butt for a little while. This isn't a character. This isn't someone we see again. This is just a scene transition into a lady's butt walking along.
Yeah. And I can understand if they were trying to do like some kind of sexploitation film or like a Piranha 3D or 3DD or something like that where we're all in on the joke and we get it. But the film is taking itself pretty seriously with the aggressiveness of the first like shark attack in the opening minutes, and it's like, which one is it? Because you can't have both, right? It's got to be dumb and campy, or it's going to be something serious.
Yeah, and there's a scene later on where one of the female characters is forced to strip down to her underwear, and the camera and like by some characters who are like ogling her and like, oh yeah, and I'm thinking this is what the film's been doing for the past hour, and you're presenting the villains as doing this. So are the filmmakers the villains of their own film? Like because their behavior is mimicked by these villains.
I'm not understanding it. And then the motivation for most of that stuff, I'm like, what is happening here? I felt like they were writing the script. They were like, oh, and then this happens. Oh, dude, that's nice. Write it down. Oh, and then this happens. Oh, it's even better. Write it down.
But none of it is. None of it is better or good. There's very little that I think make this film noteworthy. There's a couple of half-decent shark-related deaths, but not many. And then they're not like, oh my god, did you see that? I've kind of been spoiled by the DBZ franchise. Each one has a pretty phenomenal surprise death in it, at least. And like, there's numerous fantastic shark-related kills across the whole franchise. And here we get, a shark jumping up and taking a guy out of a tree, but you know it's going to happen. And then a shark taking out people underwater, pretty boring. One of the characters gets taken out by a bunch of little cookie cutter sharks. That was the most horrific one to me, where she's Beth, the only. I don't want to talk about this film. I've been looking forward to this show. Like, I could talk to Nick for an hour or so. But I don't want to talk about Shark Night.
Well, I think the main problem is there's just it's too cliche. It's too predictable, and there's no one to really root for. There's no character that has an established moral base leaning one way or the other to go, oh, they're a good person, let's follow them, or, oh, they're complex, or, oh, they're this. Like, there's nothing intriguing about anybody. There's no real mystery. It's like, who really cares? It's like we're tagging along, but for what? Like, there's no... I don't know, there's just no energy to it. And I'm sure the 3D aspect, like in theaters, like there might have been a cool shot or two, but when you're watching it like I did on Amazon on a non-3D TV, like any kind of shot, the shots just look weird. Like all the shots of them on the boat, I'm like, is this real? Is this green screen? Like, which is it?
Yeah, because there's a few 3D-ified, like when the boat explodes, there's bits that would come at the screen. And I think the final shot of the shark jumping at the camera would definitely be a 3D.
Of course.
Which is maybe the worst part of the whole film, I don't know. But
that might be the worst part?
Yeah. But yeah, there are, as you said, there's no characters that you really glom onto. Like our main 7, we've got Dustin Milligan, who is Ted from Schitt's Creek. Are you a Schitt's Creek fan?
I'm not, but I hear very good things about it. So good for Dustin.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek is fantastic. I recommend it to everyone. It's a really good show. Stick with it through the first season. You need to... The characters aren't immediately likable, but give them time, and there's like 4 seasons, and halfway through season 1 onwards is all fantastic. So if you don't like them